Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chronicles. As again, we are here to discuss the current affairs of, from the today's edition of The Hindu. Uh, so, at the beginning, we'll go through the headlines and then do a deep dive into each of the headlines. So, this is an editorial headline wherein the root problem of India's manufacturing sector has been portrayed by The Economist, who is the author here. Yeah, this is a very interesting article. Let me just put it in that way. And he has put in different things which India could have done when the economic reforms were done in early 1990s, and what we still lack, and how we lack in terms of other economies who are also at par of India. This is one editorial, and then the next one is how Central Asian foreign policy multi-vectorism pays off. So this article basically gives the credit to the Central Asian countries who have kept their policies a bit flexible in the sense they are not aligning with a particular set of companies. So that's what the author here has showcased. And then obviously the Nepal's prime minister is on a visit to 4-day visit to India, and India and Nepal subsequently during that visit has signed some energy and transport pacts. So we'll keep, do a deep dive into this article as well, and then breakdown of talks have happened between India and Russia in terms of the manufacturing of Vande Bharat trains. I think you might have heard about the recent news that Indian agencies will partner with different European countries for the manufacture of this Bharat trains. So we'll look into this article too. And then this article wherein it has been predicted by the Central Electricity Authority that more than half of electricity generated will be through renewable sources by 2027. So this is a big news in regards to our commitment to no carbon emission goals. So we'll look into this too. So these are the main articles which came in today's paper. So let's just go into details and see one by one what all the articles are saying. So uh, in this article, the editor has shown some. Um, he's a bit unimpressed with the way India has went about with economic reforms since 1991, and he has given many examples why we are still lagging behind, and what are the genuine hurdles which India is facing currently, uh, due to which our manufacturing sector is uh, not coming far with the other countries, so to speak. So it has been the manufacturing service economy has been in this news recently, and the basic main theme of this article is when the trade and industry policy regime was overhauled in 1991, the need for an ecosystem for manufacturing, including schooling, training, infrastructure, was overlooked. So we didn't invest, so to speak, more in these things, schooling, training, infrastructure, because of which we couldn't reap the fruits. Which I mean, this situation could have been different if we had thought of long-term benefits. So that's what in a nutshell the editor is speaking, and he's saying that even though reforms happened back in 1991. The share of manufacturing in India's economy didn't increase significantly, and even the qualitative change, uh, which has happened with improved product quality because the competition has arrived from the global manufacturers in India. But a lack of proportional growth suggests a rising income inequality. So that's what has been seen. And although Indian government is trying through the schemes such as PLI, is a production linked incentive scheme, to yield impressive results, but still there are problems. And yeah, in the recent budget itself, the public investment has been increased. In the last Union budget, there was an increase in 18%. Uh, as you can see here, 18% increase in capital expenditure. So ideally, this should increase um, and come to the aid of the private sector. And despite this, the manufacturing sector is facing some issues, and most of the reasons are being attributed to the demonetization, which happened in 2016. But we have to look at fundamental problems beyond that. Yesterday itself, NSO put a report wherein they showcased about the stagnant growth of the manufacturing sector. I think it must have been mentioned earlier. The first advance estimates of national growth income to be 1.3% for the year. So that is less than that for the agriculture and all main segments of service. So that is highlighting the issue here. So what exactly the issues are? Uh, so it's a basically supply and demand thing. Supply is there. We do have enough capital, but there is a scarcity of the demand from the households. One fact is given here that household demand for manufacturers inevitably follows the satisfaction of its demand for the necessity of life, which is food, housing, health, and education. And for Indian perspective, first, particularly, food occupies a large share. This constricts the growth of demand for manufacturers. So what he's trying to say is basically there is a scarcity of demand within India. So export can help to overcome the limited domestic market, which is what we are seeing right now. And that is also being done in other East Asian countries. But competitiveness will be crucial because to increase export is it's not an easy thing. You have to be really competitive. Your product should be really top quality. Then only obviously the market will welcome that product. And for that, infrastructure and workforce skill level are vital for successful exporting. And infrastructure such as transportation, power supply, space, waste disposal service plays a significant role. And we don't have that level as of now. And also, he has said that most of the exports are being done through largely by seas. And the ports uh, is It's a really poor condition how the ports are being utilized in India. And from the north part of the India, goods have to first reach the coast by road, and then exporters must deal with the relatively poor infrastructure practice in Indian ports. The competitive disadvantage faced by Indian exporters can be seen in the much higher turnaround time. So it takes a lot of time in Indian ports to start the process as compared to a small country such as Singapore. He has also given an example of Kerala traders where they have said that they are forced to use ports outside the state as they cost much less to use. But he has also said that transportation is a big factor, but it's not everything. Expensive power, space, industrial waste disposal, so this matter all matter. So he has put this article in a very exceptional way, and then he comes out to a very important thing that is the skill set of the labor which is there in India, educational outcomes in India, which is also very poor. Uh, Indian education system lags significantly behind other manufacturing countries, particularly in East Asia, which is quite evident from assessments by international programs like this PISA, wherein they say in a group of about 75 countries, the countries of East Asia are at the very top, while India barely manages to be the last. And it has also been showcased in all non-governmental organizations as Pratham. So, Indian education system is not in a great state as of now, and Indian children show low proficiency in reading and numeracy during early years, as highlighted by Pratham's assessment. Similarly, employers in India express concerns about the lack of employability. The employers which are there in India, they are expressing concerns that the university graduates are not at the level that they can be employed, don't have the required skill sets, and that extends to institutions such as IITs as well. So to focus on expanding universities to cater to middle class aspirations has neglected the need of those seeking vocational training in skills like carpenters, plumbers, and mechanics. So he's highlighting that the state of vocational training institutes in India is limited, with only a percentage of Indian youth receiving technical training compared to countries like South Korea, where that percentage is really high. As has been mentioned here, it is over 85%. So that is the situation. So he also tells us the way forward. He tells us the economic reforms of 1991 aimed to boost manufacturing, but it overlooked the basic ecosystem which is required, including education, training, and infrastructure. And building this ecosystem is crucial and cannot be achieved solely through legislation. Liberalizing reforms in India have reached their limit. So, through legislation, it is done. Liberalizing reforms in India have reached their limits and are insufficient to address the broader challenges hindering manufacturing growth. Additional measures are needed to strengthen education and vocational training and infrastructure to foster a conducive environment for manufacturing to thrive. So it's a very bleak situation right now. And so, in a nutshell, he basically told that India, because the household demand is oriented so much so around food right now in most of the Indian households, that there is not enough demand, um, so to speak. And supply is there, but demand is not there within the Indian market itself. So what needs to be bolstered is the export. But to increase export, you have to have these ecosystem to be very rigid, solid. The manufacturing ecosystem, which includes schooling, training, and infrastructure. And infrastructure includes a smooth passage of seaports, a smooth processing of in seaports, and then the road should be better, the waste management should be better, and overall the education system should improve so that the graduates become employable. Then only we can compete to make better products as compared to the other East Asian small countries which are doing, who do not have a great domestic market, so to speak, and that's why they are more relying on making exports. That's why they have improved these facets. These are the things which India needs to get to become to increase their manufacturing sector's performance. So this was a very enlightening editorial topic. That's why a lot of time went into it. And then in this article, the China Central Asia Summit, recently it happened in Xi'an. It showcased the region's commitment to strengthening ties with China while maintaining balanced regional engagements. Central Asian countries' successful implementation of a multi-vector foreign policy demonstrates their pragmatic approach to international relations and the benefits of diversified relationships. So they are not nitpicking particular country or sidelining themselves to a particular section. They are keeping a multi-vector foreign policy which is helping them in multiple ways. So this article mostly dwells around the recently concluded C plus C5 summit, which happened in Xi'an, and it included five Central Asian countries, which include Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. Uh, they signed a declaration and marked the establishment of China's Central Asia Summit mechanism. The summit focused on the 10th anniversary of the BRI, that is Belt and Road Initiative Corporation, to be a strong starting point. And it also centered around fostering people-to-people interactions, launching a program called the Cultural Silk Road to promote cultural exchanges and addressing concerns related to religion, regional terrorism, and extremism. So, even though this growing Chinese influence in Central Asia raises concerns about Russia's role in the region, it is essential to acknowledge the efforts of Central Asian countries to maintain balanced regional and international engagements. So in 2022, Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, held numerous meetings with Central Asian leaders, highlighting the continued importance of Russia in the region. The participation of all five Central Asian presidents in Moscow's Victory Day parade demonstrates their commitment to maintaining diversified relations. It is unbelievable. I mean, they're on one hand joining hands with China, and then they are also showcasing Russia that they are also very important to them. Now, what exactly is this multi-vector foreign policy? Central Asian countries have successfully implemented a multi-vector foreign policy extending beyond the Russia-China axis. This approach allows them to assert their sovereignty while strengthening economic and political ties with various centers of power. Notably, European Union Council President's visit to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan emphasized the EU's commitment to the region and the desire to enhance inter-regional cooperation. Each Central Asian country has unique priorities in their foreign policy strategies such as regional security, economic concerns, and neutrality. So, what are the lessons for the broader post-Soviet space? The success of Central Asian countries in maintaining a multi-vector foreign policy presents valuable lessons for other post-Soviet nations, particularly Georgia and Moldova. So this multi-vector policy is an important lesson for post-Soviet nations, namely Georgia and Moldova. While these countries aspired To EU and NATO membership, it is crucial not to compromise workable relations with Russia. Absolute security cannot be granted solely through prospective membership in Western alliances, given the complexities of the unconventional warfare. Moldova's recent pro-Western government policy and aspirations for EU membership should be balanced with a pragmatic approach that acknowledges Russia's geographic presence and the necessity of peaceful coexistence. Now, she has also talked about the implications for India. Chinese diplomacy in Central Asia has significant implications for India, particularly in terms of geopolitics, regional influence, and cooperation. China's engagement in Central Asia is driven by its ambitious BRI and its desire to secure energy resources, expand trade routes, and increase its strategic presence in the region. China's close ties with these five countries enable it to expand into political and military presence, potentially encircling India from north, and this aspect challenges India's historical influence in the region. As China secures energy resources through pipelines and infrastructure projects, it strengthens energy security as well and reduces its dependence on maritime routes. This increased energy cooperation could impact India's energy interests and access to Central Asian resources. Yeah, so in a nutshell, India is doomed. I mean, China's foreign policy is really strong, and it helps them that they are financially very strong and they don't have internal issues all that much. Right? I mean, in some ways, not talking about human rights, but China. I mean, you have to acknowledge the fact that China is second largest GDP in the world after USA. And USA has been there for many, many years. And even then, China is now competing with USA to be a major global power. Now, you have to acknowledge that because if you don't acknowledge a problem, then you can't come to the solution. So, China's increased influence in Central Asia basically is a problem for India, and in some ways, it is encircling India from each direction basically. And China's maritime dependence for fuel that might also decrease if the BRI initiative goes as the plan it will be. So, but it is commendable what Central Asian countries are doing, keeping both Russia and China at bay and keeping friendly relations with all, and even European Union, which has been mentioned in this article. So that's what the different countries should, different countries such as Georgia and Moldova, which are post-Soviet countries, they should also take um, some lessons from these policies which they are following, that they should not only align with NATO or European Union, but they should also have some pragmatic approach in keeping relations with Russia and other countries as well, because Russia's geographical presence won't diminish in future. And when war happens, as it is happening currently in Ukraine, then there are multiple facets for it. So you can't only depend uh, all your security on the back of NATO. You have to have different options with it. That's what this article said. Now, India, Nepal has signed pacts on energy and transport. Um, so, the Prime Minister of Nepal is on a 4-day visit, and the two sides signed a series of agreements on energy and transport, including export of Nepal's hydropower to Bangladesh through Indian territory. India and Nepal have signed a transit agreement, and that will help Nepal's population to access India's inland waterways. Now, under this agreement, power trade agreement, uh, 10,000 megawatt of electricity will be imported from Nepal, and the new pipeline will be constructed from Siliguri to Jhapa in eastern Nepal. Siliguri is Assam. It is in Assam. No, it's in West Bengal. Pardon. And a number of MOUs have been signed with different companies, NHPC and UCL of Nepal, for the development of Pupur Canal hydroelectricity project and the project development of the lower Rhine. So these are some of the facts which you can see, and the development in the international affairs with respect to Nepal, which are not at great point, so to speak, because of the boundary issue. And another issue which has arisen recently is the Akhand Bharat, that the thing which they have made in the new parliament, that includes some of the parts of Nepal as well, and one of the most important parts of Nepal, which they consider to be the birthplace of Gautam Buddha. So that is very important for them. So the relationships between Nepal and India have not been great, even though Nepal shares a very large boundary with India. So these developments are really important. India transit, India's inland waterways. These are some of the things. Now, this article, I'll tell you the story briefly initially. So what happened is, for some to manufacture 120 Bharat Vande Bharat Express train at 30,000 crore or $3.63 billion rupee, a joint venture was to happen between Russian transportation giant Transmash Holding and the Indian public sector undertaking, the PSU of India, Rail Vikas Nigam Limited. So what happened is, right now the TMH of Russia has a larger sharehold as compared to RBML, and due to that, and due to the existing sanctions by the West, because you see, although the government portrays that the Vande Bharat train is all made in India, but it is not possible to make every part in India. There has to be some parts which are specialized. Uh, there are specialized companies, US companies, who make these American or Western European manufacturers who make these specific parts. That have to be procured, but due to the sanctions, those companies are not issuing those parts to the Russian firm. So the RBNL basically is asking to have a larger share than what the Russian firm holds, so that it can be portrayed that it's not a joint venture which is mostly backed by Russia, but by an Indian company, so that this thing can be created, and the parts can be procured, and we can go ahead with this project if both of these are taken. So that's what has been seen, and different things have been discussed here regarding imported spares, but all parts of the much doubted. Make in India, Vande Bharat train sets are manufactured indigenously. Many of these parts have to be imported from Western European and American manufacturers. Uh, Now, this specific, which specializes in manufacturing rolling stock for the railways. Many international suppliers and bankers are more confident if the Indian company has the majority share, as these companies are being guided by sanctions imposed on Russia due to Ukraine. They are not comfortable dealing with Russia. The consortium will run maintenance services for 35 years. The Indian Railway is spending this much and this much for maintenance. So I think this will be resolved in the future, hopefully, because these things should not stop, even though Russia. I mean, I don't know what to comment about the war, so let's move on to the next article, where the CEA is claiming that India more than half of electricity. Please note that generated, not utilized, because you see these renewable sources are not 100% do not work at 100% efficiency, and much of it is lost. So we have to be very careful about the words which are being used here. So it is saying while India may have internationally committed to half its installed electricity being sourced from sources by 2030, an estimate by the CEA on Wednesday suggests that it might be achieved by 26-27. So this is what CEA prepared, NEP, and it is a 5-year plan which assesses India's current electricity need, projected growth, power sources, and challenges. Now, this very heavy document notes that the share of non-fossil based capacity is likely to increase to this and may likely to further increase by the end of this. Now, this is the main thing, installed versus generated. Installed capacity, however, does not perfectly translate into generated power, as different sources of energy have different efficiency. For instance, solar power is only available during the day. That is very true. And wind energy is also dependent on climate vagaries. Now, accounting for this, level power from renewable energy only will be only around 35.04% of the total electricity uh, by 26-27, and only 43.96%. So that's what they are saying. So the available power from renewable energy will be only around this because of the losses which will happen because this. Now, these are the things which were announced in Glasgow, where India aim to the net zero, aim to have a net zero target by 2070, and about 50% cumulative energy electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel. So that is again a thing. These are the things. I leave you to that, and we'll join in the next one. Please let me know if there is anything which I can improve.